This is Ethan Burke, Irongate Realtors. This is the Brick and Banter podcast. Today I have...
Quinnton Howard. I'm the owner of Shield Grappling Club in Springfield.
How long has it been your dream to open that?
I feel like everyone who trains, definitely fantasizes about having a gym at some point, and I would be the same. I've been training for 8 years, so it's always been in the back of my mind. A year and a half ago, I kind of had this realization moment of, I have to start my own business. Some things happened with, what I thought was my dream job, and then I kind of realized that for me, that even that phrase of dream job is, it would be impossible. It would be impossible for me to be living my dream as an employee. Yeah. So I kind of was playing with some different ideas. I was a sourdough baker for a long time, so I kind of know how to run a sourdough business. But, I kind of just thought, I'm not passionate about sourdough. I know how to do it and all that, but I'm passionate about jiu-jitsu. So if we're going to do it, let's just go all in. Probably, more than a year ago at this point is when we kind of started working on the project of what all it would take to open a gym and have it be set up for success, and not just kind of run in and think it's going to be all good and successful. So we started doing research, starting to look around of where would be a good place to have a gym, started looking at buildings, started to have all kinds of grandiose ideas that none would come to fruition.
Let's dive into that a little bit. What are some of the things you look for in a building for something like that? And what are some of the turnoffs?
Yeah, so looking for places, the hardest part was with the commercial places, the owners and the realtors were busy, I would say. They didn't have a lot of time in the day to speak to little old me about my dream. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to see that number in my account before we even have a conversation. So I had a ton of hurdles with even getting eyes on spots. And obviously you kind of helped me out with that at first, but the traditional ways of trying to find a building, none of them worked for me. I had to essentially get super lucky to find my spot. I got to a point where I was struggling so bad trying to find a place that I just started calling around and looking at subleasing type situations. So I was calling gymnastics places and taekwondo places, and I found a gymnastics place in Springfield. The guy gave me his landlord's phone number, and I talked to that guy. His daughters went to the same high school as me, graduated a couple years after me, so nice. I think he was a little endeared to me because of that. And he showed me basically anything that could potentially work. And he ended up showing me a storage unit basically in the basement of one of his buildings. And I was like, this is it, dude. This is it. He was like, well, it would take a lot of work and a lot of vision. But as soon as I walked in, I was like, this is it. This is perfect. We can make this happen in here. So yeah, it was a lucky situation. Wasn't any traditional channels. That spot wasn't even a rented unit, you know. It was literally just storage. It wasn't listed anywhere. They weren't trying to get it rented. None of that, I just kind of got lucky and stumbled upon it. But yeah, that was hard to find a spot for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple people who found retail.
Mm-hmm.
Retail, that's what they call it in the commercial world.
Yeah.
Little retail spots.
Yeah.
It seems like all of them went through some unconventional channel.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember I tried to help you out and talk to the commercial people at my old brokerage, and we got nowhere.
Yeah, dude.
We got some runarounds, and we got weird answers.
Yeah.
And then you, Dan, Ian, the guy from Defiance Gym, I had him on.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody just kind of found somebody who was leasing a spot, did their own work with them, and it worked out beautifully.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. There's 100 examples of things like that where you're going through this journey trying to do this big project on all different there's so many different phases and so many different angles that you have to approach it on, that there's been a ton of just little wow, that was lucky and helpful and I had no idea that would happen type things come up that have kind of culminated in what is the execution of my gym versus what the plan was of my gym, and the actual execution is so much better. Everything fell into place way better than I could have ever dreamed of, way better than I could have ever lined up or planned myself,
Hell yeah.
which is kind of cool. And now I'm kind of just trying to surrender to that and accept that as a business owner of like, there is no like perfect planning or it's hard to be prepared for some of these things. So you just kind of on your toes at all times, waiting for opportunity and just trying to do my best to work as hard as I can. That way the opportunity finds me as much as, it's willing to. Yeah.
And you partnered up with the guy, was it Bandit BJJ?
Yes. Yeah. So that's one of those things where it's like, man, I could have never, ever thought of this being a thing, So I ended up deciding on opening a gym in Springfield, and there were already a couple other jiu-jitsu spots there. Bandit BJJ was one of those. I felt like the product that I had would be different enough from those two places where we could all coexist. Obviously with us coming from Queen City, we're all no-gi, we wrestle a ton, and even like some scheduling things. So one thing about Bandit was they only had class at 6 a.m. And I knew I would only have class at 6 p.m. because I had to work during the days. I have a buddy from elementary school, high school, a guy I've been friends with forever in Springfield, and he was training at Bandit. So I'm thinking, I've never met those guys. I would love to go there and like kind of show my face and develop a relationship. Maybe we could help each other out in some sort of way. I don't know. But I just kind of wanted to go there and go to an open mat and meet the guys. Went to one open mat, met the owner, Jeff Kingsley. Right away, we were just super cool. Very first open mat, we trained, everything was cool. And then we just chatted for like over an hour, just sitting there, me and him together, talking about jiu-jitsu, talking about business. And I think kind of right away, both of our spidey senses were tingling as like, man, okay, like this could be a thing where we could help each other in some way. So I just kept training there. I would go like Wednesday mornings at 6 and train with the guys and come back on Saturday for open mat and train, talking to Jeff the whole time. And we eventually sat down and kind of talked about what would this look like for us to kind of go in on this together and create a new spot without some of the limitations that he had on his on the building there that he was in, because he couldn't teach at night. And also, like, if me and him partner and he can only teach 6 a.m.s and I can only teach 6 p.m.s, then that means if we had one gym, we would have a fully robust schedule, which is like one of the biggest amenities you could really offer as a jiu-jitsu gym, like having as many class opportunities as possible to accommodate as many different people's life situation as possible.
Yeah. Everyone's got weird work schedules.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that was a long, arduous journey where we're working it out together. And, we really spent a lot of time together to make sure we were aligned. And, really as the days have gone on, I've just been more and more reassured that it was the right call. Yeah, he's the man. He's such a cool dude. His jiu-jitsu is really cool. His outlook on jiu-jitsu is really cool. He's super open-minded about stuff. That very first day, he's asking me some leg lock questions, which, for a black belt to be asking a purple belt leg lock questions, I think it says a lot about his character and how he sees jiu-jitsu, and that he's focused on learning and being open-minded and not so focused on,
doesn't have that ego going on.
That ego thing, which is obviously super prevalent in the jiu-jitsu world, So, but he's a really cool dude, and I feel very lucky to have found him and all his guys, and we've gotten along really well, and we're loving training together.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did he completely close his spot and start in with you?
Yep. So now we're one gym, we're one team. Yep, and all his guys are training here. We just had one of his guys who had been training with him at Bandit competed this weekend, and
Nice.
I was there coaching him.
How'd he do?
He is a 275-pound, 40-something-year-old power lifter. So he's impossible for anyone in his division to deal with at the moment. His biggest worry was making himself too tired. So he won all of his matches by a very large amount of points. Nice. But he was laying on the floor, super tired after all of the matches too. So he did great, and it was fun to be there. We were helping out some of the Queen City guys too, nice. Coaching them up and stuff, and it was fun. But it's cool to kind of have this symbiotic relationship where even like on Friday, Max, our friend Max in Kentucky, and Nathan, they both got promoted to black belt. And I was able to go down there and support them while they were getting promoted because Jeff was able to cover my PM classes, you know. So there's just so many benefits to it. And yeah, getting started out with a super solid base of guys is obviously a huge advantage too. So yeah, it worked out in a ton of different ways, and I'm stoked about that.
That's cool. Do any of his guys not want to make the transition from one place to another? So I know sometimes you lose people along the way.
Yeah. So the one benefit was that it was only a 5-minute drive.
Nice.
Yeah, only 5-minute drive from where him and his people were. So we didn't have any issues like that. You know, if anything, I would say totally like some of the people he lost when he lost his PM classes, because obviously that, you know, training at 6 a.m. is a specific type of a person who needs to be there. Right. He lost some people and his kids program as well when they went to only AMs because the guy he was subleasing from wanted to do some things at the PM. So if anything, we gained more people than were at his spot training at 6 a.m. from his network, where there were people that trained with him in the past that were super excited that there's kind of this new reinvigorated launch of the gym that they trained at. And, you know, now it's kind of got more resources and obviously combining with me. And now we have like the Queen City backing as well as the Chitwood backing. So yeah, I think if anything, we gained people more on top of his base that he already had solidified, his 6 a.m. crew. So
that's awesome. So the style of your gym, is it more like kind of recreational and chill? Or are you going hardcore trying to get people ready for tournaments? Good mix of both?
Yes, this is another really big thing that me and Jeff talked about as a big benefit we could have is, you know, our goal is to not tell anybody what their goals are, but to help them regardless of what those goals are. So if someone comes in and tells me, I want to compete, I want to win this and this and this tournament, sick, we got something for you. You know, if there's a 60-something-year-old grandma that says she wants to come in and train jiu-jitsu, we got something for you too, you know. It's more rewarding to help someone meet their goals than for me to like try to impart some goal on anyone at the gym. I think the only thing that we require is that everyone want to improve. Yeah, like wherever you're at, I think you should be trying to be better. We teach in unique ways and unique styles and different ways too. So some people may like my class, some people may like Jeff's class, but we have this Venn diagram of people we can serve. And, you know, that makes us bigger and better and have a bigger base of customers that we can serve. So, yeah, those are all more pluses to the gym. But, yeah, I mean, some guys like to compete. I like to compete. Some guys like to train. Some guys have serious big boy jobs, so they they just want to come and stay fit, and all that's all cool with us. You know, we all coexist and train together nicely. So,
hell yeah! You got any tournaments you're gonna compete in coming up?
Yeah, so they just put out the Columbus IBJJF, and I'm sure that the Queen City family will be in the hunt for a team trophy there. So I'm thinking I might need to rally the troops and, and try and get some points for the guys. And that's early May. And then we have like an in-house tournament at our other affiliate, Chitwood. That's in May as well. I think they're on different weekends. I think the Chitwood is on the second weekend. And I'll be competing there for sure in the gi, which is sweet. And then, yeah, I think the Columbus, IBJJF, and maybe even the Arnold too. Because I know those brackets will just be big and huge and a lot of good opportunities to get some good matches in. But
yeah, I was rolling with a guy in Queen City who started relatively recently compared to me. I don't know if I think he's a blue belt. And he was catching me with all sorts of darces and stuff. And I was like, this guy's gotten a lot better since the last time we went against him.
Yeah.
And I told him, like, damn, man, your moves are getting slick. Like, I didn't even see him coming. He was like, yeah, I'm getting ready for the Arnolds. I'm like, you're going to do really well.
Yeah. Yeah, nice.
It's got to be cool, like, watching your students show up and kind of bumble around and not know what they're doing and then eventually get to the point where they're just assassins.
Dude, 100%. Yeah. I mean, we've only been open for a month, but seeing the improvement with some of these guys, it's like, yes. Like, it makes me super excited. And the kids as well. Yeah.
Kids got to be fun.
It's a blast, dude. It's so cool. And especially with this way that I like to teach where, you know, everything in my classes, everything's live. You know, there's no drilling, there's no warm-ups. It's just all like live jiu-jitsu and specific situations that we put the people in. And the kids do such a great job, and they're like, they discover new things constantly. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, that kid just did a leg drag. And the kid's never seen the technique in his life, has no idea. He's just like in the moment, playing the game, solving the problem.
Yeah.
And we have 2 different age groups for kids too. We have a 5 to 7 and then an 8 to 12. So the little kids is like, it's just the coolest, funniest thing ever. They're just running around having fun. And that's our priority for our kids program is it has to be fun. You know,
they're not having fun. They're not going to show up.
They're not going to show up and they're not going to enjoy their time. You know, if it's not fun, I'd rather them not have to show up because I want the kids to be enjoying their time. But yeah, we've been able to make it really fun for them. And my mom has a daycare in Springfield. So, you know, I kind of have a big network of kids. You know, I worked at my mom's daycare for 5 years. My wife worked there for multiple years too. So we have a big network of kids that know us and are comfortable around us. So our kids programs have really I feel like they've filled out pretty nicely over this month. And yeah, I'm super happy with the way the kids program is going. It's so cool to watch them. Yeah.
That's cool. That's got to be its own like unique challenges trying to teach kids that don't really want to focus and really just want to jump around on these mats and play how to do these fine technical techniques.
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of my teaching method, honestly, to me, is a solution to that problem. So there are no fine, detailed, technical things at all, period. I tell them, get on your partner's back like a backpack and hold on, you know, and they learn through that. And then we can start to build on that as they experience it, as they feel it for themselves. I can say, hey, okay, guys, let's try this idea of you put one arm over and one arm under like a seatbelt. Let's hold that and see, does that help us? You know, or, you know, they do a lot of grips like this. So I show them, okay, what if we put our hands like this? Or what if we put our hands like that? And kind of give them suggestions rather than me telling them, this is a knee slice pass. You walk in, it looks like this. You put your hand here, you put your leg there. And then by that time, everyone's looking in a different direction.
Yeah.
It's fun and it's fast paced. And, you know, there's not very much time that they're sitting there listening to me talk. And that doesn't cure everything. You know, they still kind of just veer off and want to do their own thing at times, and we got to keep them focused. And we have to be really diligent with like our partner selection and those types of things to help them stay focused. And also with it being 100% live, we're able to kind of shorten the class length. So our little kids class is only 30 minutes and our big kids class is only 45 minutes.
Okay.
Where normal kids class is at least an hour,
Yeah.
you know, and that's longer time to keep their attention. So we kind of make everything super compact, keep everything moving along really quickly. You know, it's a live game for 3, 4, 5 minutes, depending on the age group. And then it's a water break, and then you come back, and then I deliver the next game. And then it's live game, 3, 4, 5 minutes, water break, come back, I deliver the next game. It takes 30 seconds, you know, and we're right back to it. So, yeah, luckily I think that style of teaching really helps the kids kind of stay engaged.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. For the adults, like advanced, intermediate, beginner classes, or is it just all one? How do you do that?
Yeah, so I'll speak for my PM classes on that, and we can answer the 6 a.m.s too, because there's some cool, unique stuff going on there as well. But for me, with the PM classes, I have 2 different types of classes. One I call foundations, and one I call all levels. So the all levels would be slightly more advanced, and the foundations would be for beginners, I guess, is kind of how it's shown to the public. But really what happens is every day I come to class and I have a plan, but it changes almost every time. Because part of what I'm trying to do is help each individual, you know, because we're all so different. I mean, I'm sure you felt this. You have to have felt this more than anyone because your game is so unique. So you know, when you come in, you have such a unique set of problems that you're trying to solve in terms of like a live role, you know. I try to make it to where everyone kind of gets that. Like if you were to come in my class, it would change the way I structure the class. You know, I would structure it in a way where I'm giving you solutions to problems that you are currently experiencing, rather than just some solutions to random problems that maybe you experience, maybe you don't. I don't know. I just thought about this, or I watched this on a Gordon DVD and I'm going to show it today because I feel like showing it today. It's super individualized. So I have a plan, but every day when new people, like depending on who's there, I'm like, okay, well, we got 5 guys here today and all of them are over 210 pounds. So we're going to do pressure passing. We're going to do tight passing, and we're not going to do, I had a plan to do a bunch of outside loose passing, but we got all the big guys here. So we're going to do tight pressure passing, and help these guys with problems that they're experiencing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've come into a lot of classes at like other gyms way before I found Queen City, where they were just like, let's learn some random guard pass today.
Right.
Like, okay, cool. Another one.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not even necessarily like saying that the technique is bad or that it doesn't work for someone, or that it's not, like, it could even be really good, really high percentage. But I think we all have, like, you only have a certain amount of bandwidth. You only have a certain amount of problems that you're trying to solve at a time. The basic layman way of trying to explain the way I teach is we just swap that order. Like, instead of the normal class structure where you come in, I give you a solution to whatever problem I feel like giving you a solution to. Then we might do some situational rounds where you could maybe feel that problem, maybe not. And then we go live. Yeah. And then tomorrow it's, maybe we build on that idea, or maybe it's completely random, depending on the gym. At my gym, it's the other way around. We come in and it's an hour straight of live work with specific constraints in specific situations, to where we're experiencing problems, but it's open enough to where everyone can choose to solve that problem in a way that best suits them. And then as we're experiencing those problems through the hour, people are accumulating data, like, okay, I can't pass chest half guard. Okay, I keep getting snapped down. Okay, I keep getting finished in this leg entanglement. Yeah. And then after class, once that hour's done, we start a timer. You're allowed to leave if you want, because we just did an hour straight of live work, so everyone's tired. Yeah. You're allowed to stay and roll rounds if you want. If you got some extra juice and you just want to scrap, totally cool. Or you're allowed to ask questions. That's cool. Which is, and I'll be the last one off the mat. So I'll sit there and answer questions as long as people want to ask them. So it's like the opposite way, where you come in, you experience the problem, and then if you want a certain solution, you just ask and we go over it. And if I don't know the answer, which is totally possible, then we'll find it together and like treat it like homework and come back and work on it together in the future. But that's awesome. Yeah. We just kind of flip those orders, and I think it keeps people engaged, just like the kids. Yeah. And, it's, everyone wants to go live. Yeah. Like everyone wants to go live. That's the fun part. So why don't we just do that? Yeah, we'll do that. And then after, we can go through some technical stuff and, answer specific questions. And even with that stuff, I just say, hey, this is an idea, or hey, this works really well for me, or hey, I think this would work really well for you. Or, actually there's a guy named Quinnton Duarte, and he's really good in this position. If you watch any jiu-jitsu, like, watch him. Like, he's really good in this spot. Those types of things, rather than being like, this is how you pass half guard, or this is how you do a knee cut. It's more like, this is how I've experienced it. This is how it works for me. And try to keep everything open-minded and let people feel free to kind of do and learn their own jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Body mechanics are a very real thing. Like, there's some moves that work for really short, stocky guys that will never work for me. There's some moves that work for me just because I'm tall and lanky. It'll just never work for somebody who doesn't have the flexibility or something. 100%. And it even goes deeper than that too. It's like, where's your mental capacity to retain certain amount of details? If you're a super, super great athlete, you probably haven't been in a situation where you have to understand detailed minutia of technical things very much. So that might be hard for you to do, but you're beating the guys up that know every single detail to every single move just because you're super athletic. So it can go into that. Maybe, it goes so deep, maybe I've had a bad day. Maybe me and my wife are arguing, and now I'm trying to learn this move and my mind's not really there all the way. Or maybe I have an ankle injury or a knee injury. And like, there's so many things that go into this milieu of the experience of trying to learn jiu-jitsu that, to isolate a move and teach it with these specific details, and to think that that's going to have a one-to-one translation back into a live scenario, it just doesn't work that way, obviously. If it did work that way, and I make this joke all the time in my class when I'm trying to get buy-in for this training methodology, I'm like, why don't we just turn the Gordon DVD on? We won't even train. We'll just watch Gordon's DVD, and then we'll all be as good as him when we're done. Of course.
So it works, right?
Right. But yeah, obviously it doesn't work like that. Like you have to spend tons of time in these specific situations and work on it and develop it. And so we try not to box people into whatever my limited understanding of techniques are, you know. Like imagine if I was trying to force you to do my jiu-jitsu. You know, it would be uncomfortable for both of us and it wouldn't be as fun and as free and you wouldn't be as good because I don't know what jiu-jitsu is best for Ethan. I really don't.
There's a lot of gyms that do that.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the traditional approach, you know, like it's like a top-down approach where the coach is the holder of information and that's the place to go. But now, I mean, if you're a coach and you're honest with yourself, I mean, your student body has access to all the very best guys in the world.
True.
You know, so it shouldn't be top-down anymore. You know, it should be at least the way that I see it is more like me being like a team captain, like where I'm studying and I'm learning and I'm trying to lead from the front. You know, I'm trying to show people what it looks like to be intentional during a training session or to have questions. And yeah, like I said, if I don't know something, like that's sweet. That's just a better opportunity for me to study more. You know, right now I'm studying north-south passing because I have like a ton of guys who are really good wrestlers who are like kind of new in their jiu-jitsu journey. And I played golf. So I haven't had to deal with some of the problems that they're dealing with, you know, and they're getting really good at side-to-side passing and trying to finish passes from north-south. And I've never been in that situation. So it keeps me honest with developing my knowledge for the game. But at the same time, it's just super curated to the individual, which I think is the way it should be.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love having that time period at the end of class to ask questions. Because
Yeah.
that's when you get the ideas or those moves that you're like, I realized a while ago I didn't know how to do it, but I forgot that I wanted to ask about it.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's when it clicks at the end.
Yep. Or like you touch that hot stove and you're ready to hear.
Yeah.
You know, you're ready to listen. You're ready for that piece of information that's going to spare you next time you're in that situation.
You didn't realize that you had a weakness for darces and you just got darced 3 times.
Yeah.
Show me how to stop this.
Exactly. Exactly. Rather than if let's say you don't have that experience where you're getting tapped by a blue belt and darces and, you know, it's just another day, a normal day. And today we're looking at defending a darce, you know, it probably won't hit the same. You know, it probably won't. Even if you're good about paying attention and things like that, it won't hit the same as if you just got darced 10 minutes ago by this guy. And now you want to know about darce defense, you know. So
100%.
Yeah, that's the philosophy that we try to use.
What's the last move that you personally wanted to work on?
Yeah, right now I'm kind of working on 2 different things, and they're really nuanced. So the jiu-jitsu nerds here are going to be the only ones that know what I'm talking about. But do you know that position where you can where you're attempting to knee cut someone and then they pinch your foot and your foot's trapped? So in that position, you can back step into the saddle, right? So one thing I saw watching the European trials was this idea of usually when we back step, when they turn and square up their hips, we can go back to the knee cut. Yeah. And if they don't defend the back step, then we just back step in the saddle. But there's this idea that I saw yesterday where a guy he back steps. The guy turns to square up his hips, and he just continues the back step all the way back around to side control on the second side. So it's just kind of like a third direction to go in, which is kind of how I like to think about my systems or whatever is I jokingly say, but it's not a joke, it's serious, but it's funny because it's a mouthful, but I say multi-directional dilemma-based system. So yeah, I'm trying to think how many directions can I go? How do I go front, back, left, right, up, down in this situation to where I have more answers in the situation and can give this guy more to think about. So I'm trying to add in that back step to the second side. And then, you know, again, with me having so many wrestlers, I'm getting into a ton of what's called like Choi bar or arm saddle type scenarios. And I'm adding in a Tarika Plata from the arm saddle. Heard of that. Yeah. It's also called legs Kimura. I got
to see what this is.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. And it's super effective in a given context. But yeah, basically, you know, these guys are, you know, maybe they'll take a bad shot on me and they'll be in a single leg. We'll be in like crucifix-esque type positions. And, you know, I can essentially lock up a Kimura where I use not my arms, but my legs. You know, it does take one arm, but you use your legs to put the pressure on the shoulder. But yeah, I'm adding in a Tariqa Plata from the arm saddle and a back step from the knee cut quasi saddle situation. You asked, bro.
Hey, the jiu-jitsu nerds will get a kick out of that. Everybody else will think it was Latin.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. But that's
that
cool.
in the next foundational class.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Well, I mean, so that there is a difference when I see foundations versus all levels, and as time goes on, it'll be more categorized by the class name.
Yeah.
But right now, with us having so many classes and us being new, you know, most classes are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. So it's easy for me to kind of dial it in for those small amount. But, you know, the difference between a foundations approach and all levels approach for me is an idea called scaling. So we can scale our games up or down based on the level of the grappler. So if you come into my gym, you're a purple belt, you already know what's up, you've trained forever, you rolled forever, the games will be a lot more open-ended.
Yeah.
So like we'll take a given situation to help you understand it. So like in a mounted scenario with the arm isolated above the head already. You know, we got the underhook, we finger crawled, we have the arm above the head. And in all levels class, we might start with the arm isolated above the head and say there's 2 ways the top player can win this game. You can either A, sub the player from mount while maintaining position underneath at least one elbow, or you can use it to take the back. That's the top player's win condition in a all levels class. And the bottom player's job would just be to get your elbow back inside. So it's kind of directly opposed to what the top player is trying to do.
Like there's a specific goal.
Yes, specific goal. All you got to do is get your elbow inside. You win. We switch top bottom. But obviously, it's simple, but it's not easy to get that elbow back in. But in a foundations class, I may say, all right, let's start in the mount. Let's start with hands on wrists. Top player, your job is to get an underhook and lock your hands underneath at least one elbow. Bottom player, your job is to either push the top player off so you have your hands and feet in front of them, or reverse it and become the top player. So that's that scaling idea of like there's way less information to have to take on with it's just, oh, all I got to do is get underneath an elbow and lock my hands. Sick. Okay, I can do that, you know. But they're both, in both contexts, are still very real, applicable skills in a live context with a live resisting opponent. So that's the idea of scaling that we use to, or it's the same idea with the kids too. Like we scale their games way down, you know, so that's easy for them to understand, but they're still building real skills versus a live opponent.
You said you've only been open for a month?
Yeah.
How close are you to promoting anybody? Does anyone come in already with some decent amount of skills and they're pretty much really close?
I think obviously Jeff's been running his whole program, and there are some guys that are close. They'll be getting that, you know, some belts will be had here in the near future for some of those guys. And I just promoted my wife to blue belt, obviously, which is cool. I don't know. I don't think too hard about that. And it's easy for me to say at this point, you know, but I'm just focused on kind of getting the people more well-rounded and focused on training. But that time will definitely come, you know. I don't think about like stripes, you know. That's something if you're training in the gi, and we do stripes at our morning class. Those guys get stripes because they train in the gi. But yeah, it's not something that's super on my radar at the moment. But
I've noticed that with a lot of no gi people, they don't really care about the ranks. They're just trying to get better.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that the gi people don't do that as well, but you know, it's a bit more obvious when you're in the gi and the belt's just right there all day, every day.
For
opposed
sure.
to no gi, where everyone's just wearing whatever they feel like, rash guard.
Yes. Yeah. No, I've noticed it as well. I think it's a cultural thing as well. Yeah. You know, back to that top down sort of idea with certain gyms and stuff, that hierarchy can mean a lot, and it could also put a ton of pressure on you too. You know, like if I'm a purple belt and I have a purple belt around my waist, like getting tapped by a white belt's not an option. But yeah, I mean,
then that ego gets involved.
It gets involved and it holds you back.
Yeah.
You know, it really does. Like I get tapped by white belts all the time. I do, because when we're rolling, what am I going to do? Just smash them? Like that's not going to help either of us out. But I'll let them get as deep as I feel like I can get out of whatever it is that they're working on. And sometimes you don't get out. Yeah, sometimes you get tapped in. But how else am I going to improve working with a white belt? You know, me just repping my stuff over and over again, it's not really helpful for either of us. So
Yeah, that's something I've tried to do because I definitely feel like a one-trick pony with my style because I know what I like and it works, and that's just what I keep doing. But if I go up against somebody who's newer, I refuse to do any kind of rubber guard against them. I try to just do whatever basic techniques that I've almost forgotten over the years to make sure that I still remember how.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, otherwise, like, how's it going to help either one of us? If someone it's their second week of doing jiu-jitsu and I'm throwing Hindu
they're in a Venus flytrap.
It doesn't help either one of us. And it honestly would hold me back from learning those techniques.
Yeah, for sure. No, I feel like that sort of timeline is really aligned with my experience too. Because when I came to Queen City, I was a purple belt, but I was basically like, I don't know, maybe a blue belt, maybe. So I kind of had to rebuild, and I went super, super hard learning leg locks because I felt like everyone was everyone was so good at wrestling and passing at Queen City already. Yeah. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to like become a better wrestler and passer than these guys who are already, been doing it forever and wrestling and stuff. So I went super hard the other way and just like went all in on legs, for 4 years until Ruben threatened me and said he'll never promote me to brown belt unless I learn how to wrestle and guard pass. So yeah, I'm with you on that timeline thing. Like I was a purple belt for a while before I ever thought of doing anything other than my A game or like what I'm currently working on. I would be heel hooking everybody. I don't care who it is, back then. So it's good to get to a place where we can start to expand, and it only makes your A game better. Yeah. Like being a good guard passer only makes my leg locks better, honestly. Same for wrestling too. Like being a better wrestler only helps my guard. So yeah, I kind of, for a while there, I was confused and felt like if I spent time not doing legs, that my leg locks would get worse. But really, obviously you can't be getting better at all these things at the same time, but you can maintain a level of leg locks and improve your passing. And then in mixing them together, you start to you become more effective.
Yeah, sure. Just add more weapons.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
That's the most wild feeling in the world when you are newer, even if you know a little bit, and you go up against somebody who's been doing it forever. Mm-hmm. Like you go up against a black belt when you like just got your blue belt or something. And finally you're just like, okay, I can actually like let loose on this person a little bit. Yeah. And you just feel like there's so many options. You're just getting stabbed from every direction.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Or like, training with professional jiu-jitsu athletes, really high level guys. It's just kind of like, man, he is so far ahead of me in every way. Like there's nothing I could do to this guy. But it's good. That stuff keeps you humble and it keeps you learning, and it's good to find those holes in your game. So yeah, those are fun.
As far as like the business side, what's been just a weird hurdle you had to jump over you never thought was going to come up?
Man, there's so many. Like jumping over weird hurdles is being a business owner. Like that's how I see it. Like knowing jiu-jitsu and training and teaching and working super hard and all that stuff is like, it's a prerequisite. Yeah. Like everyone has to do that. Like that doesn't mean anything. But when these problems come up that you're like, man, I didn't even know that was an issue, or I didn't even know that was a thing. And, or the water line broke, or, there's a leak in the unit, or, it could be anything that you have no idea about, but you have to figure it out on the fly. But yeah, offhand, one single weird issue, getting the funding. That's always a challenge. That was a very weird issue. And it took up probably 5 months of bandwidth for me to try to get the thing funded, going through different channels, trying to find a way to make it work with the bank and stuff like that.
That's going to be so difficult because you have this thing that you believe in so much, but you don't have anything on paper that's like, look, I can prove that I can do this.
For sure.
It's all technically theoretical because you haven't done it already.
Exactly. Yeah. And, as much as you believe in it, everyone else doesn't believe in it more. Like it's really like trying to sell something that nobody wants. But I felt super confident. I really done my due diligence, working with my coach Ruben and working with my friends Max at Mendocino and Dan at Iron Wolf. They really helped me out a ton with knowing what to expect, like some numbers and things like that. Like I had I had a really dialed in business plan, something that I was just refining all the time.
Yeah.
So I knew that I just had to get in front of the right people. The banks and some of these big real estate owners were not those right people because they did not care. Yeah. They didn't care about how good my plan was, or they didn't care about what potential I saw in the city of Springfield. I got told no a ton. But like I said, every no that happened just got me closer to the eventual yes that was vastly superior to the plan that I was trying to, bring to fruition at those times. So, yeah, I mean, the funding, there were heartbreaking calls where I had done everything. This was the plan. We worked on it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then there was one little hang up, like I remember I was this close to closing on a loan with Huntington, a huge loan, way more than I actually needed. But at the time, I'm thinking of it in a specific way. Yeah. I'm thinking of executing it in a specific way. And my credit score was 3 points too low. So they called and shut it all down, and they did a hard pull on my credit and all that stuff, and it didn't matter, like all that we had worked on it for weeks and weeks, and I'm submitting paperwork and getting them this and getting them that, and 3 points on the credit score was enough for them to be like, well, sorry. And that was it. And I was crushed. And then I was just like, all right, I got to start thinking outside the box here. So yeah, that's what we ended up doing. We ended up going the private route. Also in those experiences, I was able to look at it and say, how can I shave every ounce of fat off of this project as humanly possible? And, that was a really, really helpful exercise. I'm so grateful for that at this point, because when you're in that theoretical phase, you can have big ideas. You can have big ideas. In this shaving off of the fat, it became more and more realistic. And now I feel like, man, I'm set up for success here. Like, that's awesome. I don't have some crazy big looming payment, for the rest of time, like I was going to, if I would have had 3 points better on my credit score. So yeah, I feel really comfortable about where we're at right now, like on the business side and all the relationships we've built and the network that we have, through the people at the gym or through, like, I have a really good relationship with the building owner I work with. Like, he's really cool. He'll field my calls and I can ask him anything about anything.
He's probably stoked to have just a storage unit.
Yeah.
That he wasn't even planning on renting out, turned into a profitable thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I know he is. So I'm like, yeah, man, I brought you that. Why don't you bring me a little information? Why don't you help me figure this out? And yeah, he's been super cool every step of the way. Yeah, and he's a local guy. He's embedded in the community. He's not like some giant corporation that just owns a building and they don't care who's in there. And if no one's in there, then they'll just demo it and write it off as on their taxes and build something bigger and crazier. It like I said, it's just been a ton of little blessings that have happened, and it's come together better than any plan I had by a long shot. So yeah,
that's awesome. You have any advice for brand new people looking to start a business, especially a jiu-jitsu business?
Yeah, I mean, I think that idea of all the stuff that you think matters in starting a business, like as a jiu-jitsu guy, for example, like knowing jiu-jitsu or being able to be a teacher of jiu-jitsu, like all that stuff is a prerequisite. Like working 80 hours a week, like learning how to hang drywall, learning how to build walls, learning how to paint, like all this stuff that you have to do, like those things are prerequisite. I think the moment you clock in as a business owner is when a question pops up or a problem comes up that no one knows about, because obviously you're the last line of defense. You're the backstop. So those are the times where you're on duty. Now you're on call. It's like, oh, we need changing rooms, but there's no changing rooms in here. Okay, like I got to be the one to figure out how are we going to build changing rooms in here. Yeah. Like, you can't use wood in a commercial building. Okay, we have to use metal studs. All right, that's an interesting question to have to answer there. Or, wow, this lighting in here is extremely dim. Like, how are we going to fix this problem without bankrupting ourselves? So those creative problem solving opportunities is really what you're signing up, for as a business owner, regardless of what the business is, and all the things that you think are just come with the job. Anybody can do that. Everybody can do that, but no one's going to care enough about the business to solve those kind of stop really annoying problems that, those are the things that everyone kind of runs from. Or like if you're an employee, you're like, ooh, that sucks. That sucks. Yeah. I'm going to go back over here and focus on this thing that I'm doing. Yeah. But yeah, when you're the owner, it's like, yeah, I have to make all this work, and the stakes are extraordinarily high. You know, like I have a wife and kids at home, and if this doesn't work out, they will feel it. Yeah. So it's extremely high stakes, and yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. I want the ball. I want the responsibility, and all the power and all the responsibility to take care of my kids, and I felt like having my own business would be the way to make that happen. So yeah, always staying kind of in touch with that idea. My friend Dan, I remember he texted me, the owner of Iron Wolf. He texted me and said, I just want to let you know, anytime you're stressed out, just remember that you're stressed about your dream. And that was a huge piece of, advice that just really stuck with me. So yeah, every time I get stressed out, I'm like, man, at least when I solve this problem, it's for myself, it's for my family and not for someone else's dream, which is what I had done being an employee for forever. So
that's gotta be a great feeling.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, like I said, with great power comes great responsibility. So every time you put out one fire, it's like, okay, we're just on to the next. Yep. Or like, how can we make things better? How can we make the business better? So yeah, there's no like banquet dinners every time we solve an issue. It's just par for the course, man. Like, so that would be my advice, is to kind of settle into that understanding of things are going to come up that are outside of what I'm anticipating, and it's my job to solve them. It's my job to figure them out. It's my job to get educated about finances and business stuff and construction, or whatever positions your business gets put in, because you can't just pay everyone. You can't just pay an electrician to come in and do it for you. You can't just pay a construction team to come in and build your walls for you. Can't do that, especially not today, unless your credit score's 3 points higher than mine, then maybe you could have made it happen. But yeah, just being ready to creatively problem solve when things come up and think outside the box. And yeah, that's what I would say is a big piece of advice for anyone starting any business, really.
That's awesome. Yeah. What's your plan for like building the school or getting more students? Or 'cause I know your mind probably works the same as me. As soon as you get one problem solved, and like, okay, I got this. Great. What's the next thing I can do? What's the next thing I can do once I get that thing? Yeah,
for sure. Like if you would have told me I would be where I'm at right now, like with the business, if you would have told me that 5 months ago, I would have been like, oh, that's so great. That's amazing. Wow, I can't believe it. But now I'm just like, what's next? Like, how do we do more? How do we do a better job? How do we serve people better? How do we get more people through the door? That type of thing. It's no secret that really the best way to market yourself is through socials. So I'm doing a lot of work trying to understand what all that means, mainly just building my consistency. To me, the standard is to post every single day, and if I don't do that, I'm not doing a good job. So yeah, I'm working on some different ideas for optimizing that. And, luckily I have a really good relationship with a girl named Izzy Mortar, and she's a social media marketing agent person. And she's really super cool. She's helped me out a ton, super knowledgeable, gave me a bunch of little tips and tricks. And we're about to kind of start to work together on a more of an involved level, so that I can learn more about exactly how it looks in terms of like a day-to-day like creation aspect of the content. So yeah, staying super busy on that. Have a good relationship with people, like I've had a ton of good experiences through just like reaching out to people, or maybe someone came to an open mat, or maybe someone heard about the grand opening and sent me a message, and I take the time to kind of reach back out to them and chat with them and get to know the people and help them feel that community aspect of the jiu-jitsu gym. People don't really know it's a thing until you like get there. Yeah. People don't know that it's like a community-based thing where we're all chopping it up and talking, and
everyone's trying to make everybody better.
Yeah, we're trying to make each other better, and we just become friendly. We become friendly. So yeah, I try to reach out and get people to feel that a little bit. without like obviously without any commitment. You didn't even have to come in, and I'll just hit you up and say what's up and tell you that I want to see you. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, definitely just trying to make the social media thing super robust. And also I've worked a lot with the Springfield SBDC, and they're really cool. I have a really good relationship with them too. They've helped me out a ton. I kind of leverage a relationship with them to find like local opportunities. You know, how can I embed myself more in the community? Because I want that. I want that as well. You know, I'm from Springfield, so I want to see positive things coming up for the city, for the people, for the kids, and yeah.
You partner up with any other like local businesses?
I'm in a conversation with one of my really good family friends forever. She's a massage therapist and she works in the unit next to mine.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, we'll have some things coming out soon about what it is we're going to look at, what it is our business relationship will look like, and kind of what that means for my members, what that means for her, and those things that'll be coming out soon. So yeah. And then we have Jeff, his wife, runs an outdoor school at their house, and it's like the coolest thing of all time. It's so cool. Like I went there, and my son Raiden, my 3-year-old son, was out back. She took him out back, and she was like, they play games, they learn about the outdoors, they're outside the whole time. They're learning about how plants work, and playing in the dirt, and she has all these like sensory toys and stuff. It's really, really cool. I wish I knew more about it so I could hype it up further, but I just know that my son was there. He had a blast. And my wife, who is the expert in all things kid related in my household, she was really blown away by the stuff that they had going on back there. And so we are trying to do our best to get, spread the word about her business as well, because it's just such a cool thing. Yeah. And I hope that we can kind of funnel some kids in there so they can do something where they're outside the whole time. It's really play based. They're not out there like following her orders. It's really similar to the way that we look at jiu-jitsu. At our gym, it's we're trying to let the kids play.
Yeah.
We're not trying to impart any abstract thing on like a 3-year-old kid. It's just about play, and healthy play. So I tore my LCL 8 months ago, but at the same time, that's part of what we sign up for, and in my opinion, when I started jiu-jitsu, I was 300 pounds. I was completely unfit, completely unhealthy. If I didn't have jiu-jitsu, I would just be unhealthy in that way. So I kind of see it as like, yeah, I tore my LCL, at least now I have a torn LCL, and I'm like, I'm really capable, and have all this self-esteem that I've built, and I'm a lot more physically fit than I was. I would before. If I just stayed on the couch, I wouldn't have torn my LCL, but I'd still be 300 pounds. I'd still be eating super unhealthy. I'd still be feeling bad about myself. So those things are always upsetting for sure. But nothing in this world is free. So everything comes with a risk.
It's a really good way to look at it, where it comes to people who don't want to get into any kind of combat sport because they're afraid of getting hurt or getting injured or whatnot. Meanwhile, like you said, if you sit on the couch forever, sure, you're not going to tear a shoulder working out or something, but you're also going to have all sorts of gigantic health issues that are way worse.
Yeah, dude.
So, I mean, you might get injured doing something like jiu-jitsu or some kind of MMA combat sport or something. You will get injured sitting on that couch eating Cheetos all day.
100%. Absolutely. I think that's not how it's commonly viewed. It's really easy to sit on the couch and say, wow, that thing over there is dangerous. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'll sit here and watch the game or whatever. But yeah. And then the other aspect of like the emotional injury, before I started training jiu-jitsu, dude, I was a pushover. I was getting bullied all the time. Like I had a music studio in my house. That's what I did for work. Like before I started doing jiu-jitsu, people would come in and, everyone thought that they were the best. So they thought they deserved to get a deal. They didn't care that they were 30 minutes late. They wanted to stay over, those types of things. And that was really hard for me to deal with and really pushed me to like, I would say, I've always been a little bit susceptible to that, like afraid of confrontation, like when I was younger and stuff. But that really pushed me, like it was happening to me on a daily, weekly basis where like these confrontational things would happen and I would just like shell up. And then through training jiu-jitsu, I'm like, I'm just not going to do that anymore. Because, not that the more jiu-jitsu that I do, the less I think about like a physical altercation, period. But, back then I was always afraid, like, man, if this gets to where it could go, like, I'm going to get hurt. This guy's going to beat me up. It's going to be really embarrassing, those types of things. And now I'm like, if it gets to that point, I'm not like afraid of that, like I would avoid that now. Yeah. Like I would leave, I would run, whatever I had to do to get away, because I have a family and I don't want to go to jail, or get beat up or get shot.
That's the thing. If someone realizes like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing, he pulls out a knife or something.
Yeah, or he gets his buddies or whatever. I think when you're doing this stuff every day, you're like, man, this is actually pretty chaotic. Or like I trained jiu-jitsu for 8 years, and then there's some 275 power lifter, 40-year-old guy that's never trained before, and he just doubles me into oblivion. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it humbles you. Like maybe this guy played football. Like if you're a D1 football, linebacker or lineman, I know some jiu-jitsu, but I'm gonna get some bumps and bruises trying to leg lock you, dude. Sure. So I think it gives you a healthy respect for what some sort of altercation would look like. It's not going to be you just Fortnite dancing on someone and just swagging on them and doing whatever you want. It's going to be chaotic. You're definitely going to get hurt, to some degree, so I feel like I have super healthy respect for it, but I'm not afraid of it. Yeah. I'm like, I do this every day, like, so I was really able to kind of develop my emotional state through that too, which, that's an unspoken thing. Like, people, when they see jiu-jitsu, they're like, yeah, that's dangerous. I'm not doing that. But, it's dangerous to be in like a negative emotional place for that long. It did not feel good, and now I feel way better now. I feel way more secure with myself as a man. I feel way more capable of like leading my family now, when before I felt like I couldn't even defend myself. So there's a ton of benefits that outweigh the injuries for me. Even, 100%. You're out for a year. If you're out for a year, it's like, man, okay, I signed up for this. It sucks. It's so hard every time. Like not being able to train, having your like day-to-day life affected by it. It does suck and it does hurt. But like I said, to me, the injuries I've had and the benefits I've gained for it, it's, well worth it. So worth it that I'm, sacrificing more to open my own gym, because I believe in it so much more than that, But it does always suck to see one of the buddies get hurt and know that, he's going through those things right now where he's like, doing rehab, he's stuck at the house and those types of things. So, yeah.
There's still that community aspect. I'm sure everybody's reaching out to him, seeing how he's doing.
Yeah, for sure. And, he has 2 boys that train as well. So reaching out to them and chatting with them and talking with him, and it hurts, but it's a part of it. And, we're all, we're adults and we're choosing the trade-off of we're going to put ourselves in these physical situations and take a risk. And, we're going to reap the benefits that we get from it too. So
for real. There's a lot of benefits.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the best thing ever. Yeah. So like, one thing that people don't know, I'm finding that people don't know this, is jiu-jitsu is extremely mentally stimulating.
Oh yeah.
Like, but people come in and they don't even know that.
Full contact chess.
Yeah. They think it's just like you just wrestle around and whatever happens, and it's a physical thing. And of course it is a physical thing. But, for me, I'm absolutely in love with the game. Yeah. The counter to the counter to the counter to the counter, and what to do in these different situations. I think that's part of what gets you addicted. It's a puzzle that will never be done. It will never be solved.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm finding that like a lot of new people really don't. They're not like coming looking for that. But that's what can keep you coming back over years and years and years. Yeah.
You realize just how vast the amount of skills and moves there are.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's so many different like strategical approaches. Like you could spend a lifetime just being a leg lock guy and like just developing your different systems on the legs and different entanglements and stuff. Yeah. But then imagine you start trying to pass, then you start trying to wrestle, and then it's like Then you get really good on the back, and it's like, man, there's 10 years right there.
Yeah.
10 years just went by. I just learned how to wrestle, kind of.
I always say it's going from like your first class, it's like trying to learn a new language.
Yeah.
It really feels like that.
Yeah.
There's just all sorts of things you don't comprehend coming at you, and they're already setting up defenses to counters you don't even know yet.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember my very first class, like, this is what got me hooked completely, was we were in the gi, and I was rolling with a girl who was way smaller than me, like probably half my body weight, and she tapped me with a cross collar choke like 3 or 4 times. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like, if I knew what she knew, I would be able to, deploy that same idea on other people, bigger people. I would like that. And then what really hammered it home is I came back the next day and found out that she was in high school. And there's like this 16-year-old girl just frying me. And I'm like a 300-pound giant dude. And she's just tapping me over and over again. And I'm just like, okay, I got to figure this stuff out. Because, yeah, that was a really big moment. Yeah, she was cool. She was really good, too. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think jiu-jitsu, out of all the martial arts, in my opinion, translates the best to a size difference. It's like,
Yeah.
Sure, if someone's got an extra 100 pounds of muscle on you, it's probably not going to go your way in real life,
Yeah.
like regardless of what's going on. But if they got like 10, 20 pounds of muscle and you're in a boxing match, it's going to be a lot different than if you're in a jiu-jitsu match.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, there's just a lot of ways with the ability to play guard and to receive weight and deflect it, and that being an idea that is so prevalent in jiu-jitsu. There's so many ways that you can be a smaller guy and take out big guys. And I say that as a 250-pound man. I know all about it. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, obviously there's strength is still a part of it. Size is still a big part of it. But I would agree that rolling with someone who's 50 pounds heavier than you is probably a lot more fun than getting punched in the face by someone who's 50 pounds heavier than you.
One thing I definitely wanted to ask about, because I know you mentioned there was some good symbolism behind the logo you have, the 2 axes and the shield.
Yeah.
What's the story behind that?
Yeah, that's funny. I don't talk about it much because like guys are just most guys are just like meatheads. They just want to get in and get after it, which was a big part of, what I was trying to do with the logo was to make it first off, I just wanted it to look cool. Yeah. Like I wanted people to see and be like, yep, that's cool. I like that. Without having to know all the symbolism and stuff. I actually, before we settled on this design, I had a whole nother, I did a rebrand before the brand even came out because I had that sort of realization that, I'm going a little too hard trying to make it meaningful to me and not doing a good enough job of like meeting people where they're at. Not everyone has to understand. You don't have to understand the symbolism at all to think that the fish shield logo is cool. But yeah, so just to get into some of that stuff, like the 2 axes, it's people don't even notice this a lot, but one of the axes is actually kind of like beat up and battered a little, and one of them is like pristine. And the symbolism there is you need to have both axes to achieve your outcome. The day-to-day axe where you're practicing and you're sharpening your skills and you're developing yourself and you're staying committed and you're staying disciplined. But you also need that pristine axe for when it's actually time to go out and use that thing. You're centered enough and you're well off enough within yourself to actually go deploy all those things that you've been working on learning and developing your toolbox with, and this spans more. It's not just jiu-jitsu. So in jiu-jitsu, you can easily find the correlations there. Like your day-to-day training, of course you're getting better, you're improving yourself every day. But let's say, there's comp day or there's a really hard round with someone who is really close to your level, like you have to show up in a certain way to be able to execute in those moments.
Yeah.
But also, I like to think about it like, raising my son. Like I read books and I try to develop myself on how to be a parent or how to be a better me for him or my wife or whatever. And that's important that I'm developing myself on a day-to-day basis. But then sometimes, maybe he runs to the bathroom with no shoes and then runs on the mat. I have to be able to execute that plan of this is the effective way to parent a child while I'm activated, like while I'm annoyed or while it's hard for me. Yeah. And I want to just like snap or lash out or something, but I obviously know that's not an effective way to parent. In that moment, I need to utilize all the tools I built beforehand, and not just, be completely reactive and, say whatever comes up, those types of things. So yeah, with the axes, it's kind of like a day-to-day build-up thing and like a game day execution thing. But yeah, it spans all throughout life, not just like jiu-jitsu. Yep. And then the name, I'll talk a little bit about the name too. Shield Grappling Club. So Shield is basically kind of like a cool, cool personification of a different idea, which would be kind of like the fifth aspect of jiu-jitsu. I kind of broke it down into 5 different aspects. The first 4 being pressure, flow, intellect, and aggression, kind of correlating to these different aspects of reality too. So like flow would be like water. In jiu-jitsu, sometimes you need to flow so that you can, actually intake information so that you can actually, maybe you want to have a good time because it's not always about battering people. But then the intellectual side, being able to actually look at your game, zoom out and look at your game and think, what can I put in here that will improve things? What makes sense contextually to bring things in? The aggression piece, obviously same thing. Like maybe it's comp day, maybe it's time to really go all out, like really go full send, or maybe I'm getting my buddy ready for a big match and he's in training camp and I got to go hard to push him to help himself. And then the pressure, same thing. Huge part of jiu-jitsu is like learning how to use your pressure, learning how to use your body weight, learning how to use more of yourself against less of your partner to enact whatever it is that you're trying to enact on them. Those would be the first 4 aspects, but the 5th aspect, what I think would be the most important and the most slept on, is presence. That the being locked in the present moment is super important in jiu-jitsu. When you're actually rolling and scrapping hard with someone who's close to your rank, you're not really thinking about anything. You're just going. You're just speaking. You're just having this dialogue with them. And, after the fact, you can look back and think, oh, yeah, I did this because of this or that because of that. But really, it's just, we're just going. We're just going. And everything that we've done on the mats up to that point has kind of culminated to this moment, even if it's just a training round, where like the best versions of ourselves currently is kind of being put on display against the best versions of them. And I think that's what really can trap people into training. And what they secretly love about it, whether they know it or not, is, when we're going live, like we said, everyone wants to go live. Yeah. When we're going live, it's like you're super locked in that moment. Like if you're having a hard time at home or if you're in an argument with your wife or something, I wouldn't know anything about that. That definitely didn't happen to me yesterday or anything. But when you're having an argument and then you go roll and it's like, like the weight is just lifted off of your shoulders. I could even go back to that conversation with my wife as a way better version of myself, because I've just dissipated all this like built up energy through being in the present moment, through having this sort of a physical exchange. Yeah. So that's why it's 5th shield, because we're highlighting that 5th aspect that to me is kind of the most important and the most enjoyable, even though it's kind of like a secret, and people don't really talk about it all that much because most of us are just like gym bros.
It is a really almost like meditative state you get in when you're rolling with somebody. Because you're not worried about bills or that guy at your work who is a jerk to you or that guy who cuts you off in traffic anymore. Right. You can't worry about that when you're worried about getting choked.
100%.
So it just forces you to really focus and center.
Yep. Just being super locked into the present moment. Yeah, I think that's the secret sauce to jiu-jitsu and why it's so great and why it's so addicting and why it's huge. Yeah. Like it is huge. It is blown up. Like there's gyms all over the place, there's tons of people training. Like we go to a small, I was at a small tournament in Cincinnati and there's like 20 different teams there. Like, man, this is crazy. Yeah. So it's blown up and it's taken over. And I think that's a big part of why is, being funneled into that present moment where you're like physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, just invested in everything that's happening right here in front of you. Yeah.
There's a magic to it for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. There is.
Like you really think back to the old school, like samurai kind of way of life and just how martial arts used to be perceived and all that. And you get why. Yeah. If you do it enough.
Yeah. Yep, 100%.
The amount of control and discipline and focus you have to do it really kind of lends itself to that.
Yeah, and it's such a long journey, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I've been training for 8 years and just got promoted to brown belt. Like, people see a black belt and they don't really realize, like, Max been training for 10 years. Nathan been training for, I think he said 16 years. Like, that's so much. There's so many things in those 10 years. Like, and I always will say this, when I'm injured and I come to training and I just watch, like, I try to think about this idea of, like, man, 10 years, like, everything's going to happen in that 10 years. Like, you're going to have great days. You're going to be at the top of your game. You're going to win a ton of matches. You're going to lose matches. You might have a pet die. You might have a family member die. Like, 10 years is such a long time, like, so the goal of being a black belt is really just a war of consistency.
Yeah.
And like chipping away over time. Like, you're not going to be a black belt based on anything that happens in one isolated day, but like, it's like a brick by brick thing, like a penny in the piggy bank over time, day by day, chipping away type of an idea. So I think trying to keep that in perspective as well is helpful for, seeing it as like a journey, as like a kind of like a martial arts type of an idea where we're chipping away at this thing that will eventually achieve some goal. And the main thing that we did to get there was just being consistent.
Yeah. Just show up.
You show up. You show up.
That's like you said, good days, bad days, you're there every single day. Just get a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Never going to show up and unlearn jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's right. A little bit better. Maybe you're extra tired. Maybe you're extra upset. All those things just go into just making you more robust as a grappler. And I mean, arguably as a person too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming out. How do people find you? How do people find your school?
Yeah. So Shield Grappling Club, Instagram, Facebook, website, fishshieldgrappling.com. Hit us up. Come train. Open mat every Saturday, Sunday. So if you already train somewhere, just come get some rounds in. Always just looking to get better any way we can. Class every morning, afternoons, nights, kids class. We got it all, dude.
Hell yeah.
Come through. Yeah, Springfield, Ohio.
Excellent. Shoot me the links. I'll put them in the description for the video. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you.